in flux. Aaron Rodgers, he visited the Steelers facility for nearly 6 hours. That was back on March 21st. Few details have emerged from the visit, but the team's current quarterback depth chart includes Mason Rudolph, Skylar Thompson. Here is Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin. Spoke moments ago at the NFL League meeting in Florida.
He's a free agent. As you guys know, he came to visit last Friday. We had a really productive day. He's been in this thing a long time. I've been in this thing a long time. But it's no substitute for, intimacy and spending time together and getting to know one another in a non-competitive environment. And so that was really good. But I don't have any new updates in terms of where the process is. We'll see where it leads us.
Is it your impression whether he actually intends to play and it's right team, right situation, or is that still to be decided?
I'm certainly not going to put words in his mouth or speak for him.
So that's Mike Tomlin there. Tim Hasselbeck joins us. Give me your thoughts here.
I just wanted to throw my man my handkerchief, man. Like, just disrespectful, man. Get a man something to drink or something. Man, Aaron Rodgers will do that to you, man.
Make you sweat like that?
Man, make you sweat.
Early in the morning, too. Early in the morning.
And what's surprising is the people in the back had a coat on. So I'm like, man, that's just some Aaron Rodgers effect right there. But it's all right, Tomlin. It's going to be okay, man.
What was your first thoughts when you hearing what he said?
I mean, it's just tough, right? Because they're trying to respect his privacy, but they also have to move forward as an organization. I think it's time to make sure that you have a plan B because of the unpredictability of Aaron Rodgers. I mean, I think it really should be something said that, hey, they should start reaching out to Atlanta, maybe, for a Kirk Cousins trade. The problem is, and the issue is, this is all the butterfly effect of Kenny Pickett. And, picking a first-round draft pick that didn't work out, that you traded to Philadelphia. Now you're trying to find the next quarterback. What a luxury it was to have Ben Roethlisberger for so long. And what we see is in teams whether it's the New York Giants or it's the Pittsburgh Steelers, when you make a late decision on your quarterback, no matter how great he is, it sets your organization back, and you have to be a high-percentage decision-maker when it comes to taking that next person. They have to draft because whether it's Kirk Cousins or it's Aaron Rodgers, that's a short-term, solution. They need a long-term one. They may have to address it in the draft.
And they're in the same position that they are when they went and got Kenny Pickett. Here again in the draft, in the 20s where they got Kenny Pickett and it didn't work out. Tim, give me your thoughts. What you heard from Mike Tomlin and what should be their plan B?
Yeah, well, I would say this. If you think about what they said this offseason, they wanted to re-sign one of the quarterbacks that was there last year, so Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Like, they were very, open about that. They didn't do that. And so it just kind of also shows their hand in terms of where they thought Aaron Rodgers was. So, Aaron Rodgers, who I've said throughout this entire process was not going to be a high-priority free agent, he's now the best available option for them right now. But because of, kind of how they've shown their hand, they're not going to pay Aaron Rodgers a whole lot of money. And so Aaron is not going, at this stage of his career, is not going to go into some situation where, he's the presumed starter, but they're going to draft a quarterback relatively high because no one wants to play in that environment. So Aaron most likely is going to wait until after the draft to make sure that they don't draft, his eventual replacement potentially in the 2025 season. So, look, I'm not saying that's why Tomlin was sweating, but it might be why Tomlin was sweating. That's kind of a disastrous situation in terms of what they were planning on in the situation that they find themselves in. So, look, I think ultimately they will have to draft somebody. They probably are better off, going. Look, they're not planning on Mason Rudolph being their opening day starter. They're not. So it's either draft somebody or get Aaron there. And Aaron's not going to go there before they end up drafting somebody.
Bart, I think that's an interesting take that he's got because he's basically saying that Aaron Rodgers doesn't want to be like Kirk Cousins. He's maybe sitting back and waiting and saying, you know what, I'm going to wait until the draft and make sure y'all don't draft anybody. That way I am the only quarterback that you have.
When you're 42 years old, that can't be your outlook because we all think that maybe they hope that Nebraska and Minnesota is hoping that maybe he can get an opportunity there. And if he goes to Minnesota, what's waiting behind him? J.J. McCarthy, somebody that they took not only in the first round, but they moved up and took him early in the first round. It has to do something, he's trying to wait and play this whole thing out. We don't know what's going to happen with the Brock Purdy situation. Is they're going to extend him opportunities. And there's no need for him to rush. But if I'm Pittsburgh, I can't wait. I have to have a plan B because, even with Russell Wilson, with Justin Fields, in that division, that's not good enough. They need somebody, Kirk Cousins, or Aaron Rodgers to even be able to compete in that division with Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson because they're ahead in their program development stage. And Pittsburgh finds themselves on that hamster wheel where they're kind of running in place. Yes, they always get to the playoffs, but they've been one and done for the last, I think, 7 attempts. So they have to make a decision. Will they be aggressive? What is their belief in Shedeur Sanders? If he continues to slip in some mock drafts, he's slipping. Will they be bold enough to move up and go get their quarterback if they see one in the draft?
Hey, Tim, what is more likely? Aaron Rodgers, you think, retiring? Aaron Rodgers playing for another squad?
Well, other than Pittsburgh, I don't see the landing spot for him other than Pittsburgh. Look, he's going to want to go somewhere and be the starter, unquestioned starter. I just would say this, I don't believe this is the Pittsburgh Steelers timeline. I believe this is Aaron Rodgers' timeline. And his timeline is prove to me that you're not going to draft a quarterback in the first round, and I'll be the Steelers quarterback. And I'm going to wait until I know that that's the case.
We'll see what happens. We'll talk more about, of course, we'll have.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại kênh YouTube của mình. Mình hiện làm người làm video sáng tạo nội dung trên nền tảng YouTube nha các bạn. Mình sẽ sáng tạo những video hướng dẫn cắt dán cho các bạn này. Đây là những sản phẩm của mình đã cắt dán rất nhiều những sản phẩm của mình đây này. Mình sẽ giới thiệu cho các bạn cách mình tạo ra những video viral của mình nha. Đấy. Để tạo được những video đẹp hay chất lượng cho các bạn xem thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ như sau. Mình sẽ giới thiệu cho các bạn biết nha. Đây là giấy thủ công màu các bạn này, rất nhiều màu sắc này. Đấy. Nó có giấy màu vàng này, giấy màu xanh này, đây là màu xanh da trời nha các bạn này. Còn đây là giấy màu đỏ. Đấy, còn đây giấy màu cam này các bạn này, màu cam, giấy màu vàng này. Đấy, giấy màu vàng. Và để tạo ra được những sản phẩm tuyệt vời như thế này. Đấy, những sản phẩm mình đang cầm như thế là sản phẩm đẹp của mình. Đấy, rất nhiều sản phẩm này. Đấy, thì mình sẽ cần những dụng cụ tiếp theo sẽ là kéo để cắt này, kéo cắt, bút dạ là để vẽ và định hình, tô thêm những sắc màu đẹp cho sản phẩm. Còn đây là hồ dán để mình có thể dán được những chi tiết vào cho sản phẩm này. Đấy, cắt dán mà đây như thế này đây, mình sẽ cắt dán và dán vào đây. Đấy, đằng sau mình sẽ dán đằng sau này các bạn này. Đây, ví dụ như thế này. Đấy, mình sẽ cắt dán này, cắt rồi dán thêm này, điểm nhấn cho sản phẩm đấy. Và còn những dụng cụ không thể thiếu như là đây đằng sau mình, đây là chiếc chân kẹp điện thoại này, đây là chiếc điện thoại thì mình quay lại quá trình mình tạo ra video này. Đây là chữ đèn hỗ trợ ánh sáng. Và kênh của mình thì cũng đã được nhận nút bạc từ YouTube rồi các bạn này. Đây nút bạc của mình này. Đấy. Khi mình cắt dán xong một sản phẩm, mình sẽ đưa lên máy tính của mình. Hiện tại chỗ này của mình thì chưa máy tính, mình sẽ nói cái đấy là vấn đề sau đi. Mình sẽ đưa lên máy tính và mình sẽ hay dùng phần mềm Camtasia để chỉnh sửa và edit video. Mình sẽ cắt sửa những đoạn video thừa ở trên Camtasia. Mình sẽ xuất ra và đăng lên kênh của mình thôi để cho các bạn xem và chiêm ngưỡng ấy. Các bạn hãy ủng hộ mình bằng những lượt đăng ký, lượt like, subscribe nha, để mình có thể ra nhiều video cho các bạn xem. Tại nơi làm việc của mình đây rất nhiều những sản phẩm